They thought their corporate connections would protect them. They believed that being hand-picked prospects with million-dollar contracts and backstage political support meant they could cross any line without consequences. Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker were dead wrong, and Triple H just delivered the most shocking terminations in WWE history with 4 words that will echo through the wrestling industry forever: "We don't do that here." But what these two psychopaths did to earn their immediate firing goes beyond anything you could imagine, and when you discover the real reason Triple H destroyed their careers in front of the entire WWE roster, you're going to lose your mind with rage at how far these monsters were willing to go to eliminate Roman Reigns permanently. The meeting that changed everything happened at 6 a.m. this morning in WWE's Stamford headquarters, where Triple H had called an emergency session with the entire creative team, all active roster members, and every corporate executive who had supported Reed and Breakker's push over the past 18 months. What was supposed to be a routine quarterly review became a public execution that sent shockwaves through the wrestling industry and established a new standard for what WWE will and will not tolerate from their performers. Hunter walked into that conference room carrying a manila folder that everyone knew contained career-ending information, an eyewitness revealed. His face was stone cold, his voice was controlled fury, and everyone in that room understood immediately that somebody was about to get destroyed. But before Triple H could deliver his devastating verdict, he forced everyone present to watch security footage that had been classified as evidence in an ongoing federal investigation. What they saw on those screens was so disturbing, so calculated, so fundamentally evil that several people had to leave the room to avoid vomiting. The footage showed Reed and Breakker planning their attack on Jacob Fatu's family for over 6 weeks, the witness continued, their voice shaking with disgust. Not just the gym ambush that everyone knows about, but systematic stalking of his pregnant wife, surveillance of his elderly father, and detailed discussions about how to eliminate the bloodline problem permanently. The premeditated nature of their conspiracy was shocking enough, but the security footage revealed something even more disturbing. Reed and Breakker weren't acting alone, and their target wasn't just Jacob Fatu or even Roman Reigns. They were part of a coordinated campaign to eliminate every member of the bloodline family, including innocent children who had never been involved in wrestling business. They had photos. Triple H's voice carried the controlled rage of a man who had seen evidence of planned atrocities. Pictures of Roman's children at school, surveillance shots of Jimmy's wife at the grocery store, detailed intelligence about G's daily routines and security vulnerabilities. This wasn't wrestling storyline heat, this was systematic preparation for mass murder. The room fell into stunned silence as Triple H revealed the scope of Reed and Breakker's conspiracy. These weren't just wrestlers who had crossed professional lines, they were criminals who had planned to eliminate an entire family, including innocent children, to advance their careers and satisfy their corporate sponsors. "We found detailed floor plans of family homes," Triple H continued, his words hitting the room like hammer blows. "Escape routes, weapon caches, even backup plans for disposing of bodies if their initial attacks were successful. They weren't planning to injure people, they were planning to commit genocide against a wrestling family." But the most sickening aspect of Reed and Breakker's conspiracy was the corporate support they had received from WWE executives who viewed the bloodline's elimination as a business opportunity rather than a human tragedy. "Certain members of our board of directors had been funding this operation," Triple H revealed, his words sending shock waves through the corporate representatives in the room. They provided financial resources, legal protection, and strategic intelligence to support what they euphemistically called talent restructuring, but which federal investigators are now calling conspiracy to commit murder. The revelation that WWE executives had been funding assassination attempts against their own contracted performers represented corporate corruption at a level that transcended sports entertainment and entered the realm of organized crime. Nick Khan personally approved a $2 million budget for resolving the bloodline situation, Triple H continued, his voice dripping with disgust. That money was used to purchase weapons, hire additional conspirators, and provide legal protection for Reed and Breakker if their crimes were discovered. But Triple H's investigation had uncovered something even more damaging than executive funding for assassination plots. He had discovered that Reed and Breakker's conspiracy extended to systematic elimination of other wrestlers who were viewed as obstacles to corporate control. They had target lists, Triple H revealed with cold fury. Detailed plans for eliminating not just the bloodline, but any wrestler who had demonstrated independence, demanded creative control, or shown loyalty to performers over corporate interests. The target lists that Triple H referenced included some of the biggest names in professional wrestling, suggesting that Reed and Breakker's conspiracy represented the beginning of a systematic purge designed to transform WWE into a completely compliant, corporate-controlled organization. Cody Rhodes was on that list, Triple H continued, watching as shock registered on faces throughout the room. Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Rhea Ripley, anyone who had ever questioned creative decisions or demanded better treatment for wrestlers was marked for elimination. The scope of the assassination conspiracy was staggering, suggesting that Reed and Breakker weren't just rogue performers but the operational arm of a corporate strategy designed to eliminate all independent thought within WWE's roster. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of their planning was the psychological profiles they had compiled on potential victims, designed to identify emotional vulnerabilities that could be exploited during their elimination campaigns. They knew about personal relationships, financial pressures, family dynamics, medical conditions, every piece of private information that could be used as a weapon, Triple H explained with obvious revulsion. Reed and Breakker had become corporate assassins who used psychological warfare as effectively as physical violence. The systematic nature of their intelligence gathering suggested that they had been planning these eliminations for years, building comprehensive databases on their fellow performers while maintaining the facade of professional colleagues. They recorded conversations in locker rooms, hotel bars, even private dinners, Triple H continued. They were building evidence files that could be used to justify their attacks or destroy reputations if direct violence wasn't feasible. But Triple H's investigation had also uncovered the most damaging evidence of all: recorded conversations between Reed, Breakker, and WWE executives discussing the specific methods they would use to eliminate the Bloodline family while maintaining plausible deniability. "We have audio recordings of planning meetings," Triple H announced, his words causing visible panic among the corporate representatives present. Detailed discussions about how to make murders look like accidents, how to eliminate witnesses, how to cover up evidence, and how to profit from the chaos that would follow. The existence of recorded evidence transformed the entire situation from corporate misconduct to criminal conspiracy with federal implications, suggesting that everyone involved in these planning meetings could face serious prison time. Reed and Breakker were promised main event pushes, championship reigns, and guaranteed contracts worth $50 million each if they successfully eliminated the Bloodline threat, Triple H revealed. They were literally being paid to commit murder by executives who viewed human lives as obstacles to profit maximization. But the financial incentives were just one component of a comprehensive corruption package that included legal protection, career advancement, and even personal security for Reed and Breakker's own families. They were given private security details, offshore bank accounts, and witness protection identities in case their crimes were exposed, Triple H continued. WWE had essentially created a murder-for-hire program with corporate resources and executive approval. The systematic nature of WWE's support for assassination attempts revealed a level of corporate corruption that transcended anything previously seen in sports entertainment, suggesting that the company had transformed from entertainment provider to criminal enterprise. But Triple H's most explosive revelation concerned the role that certain WWE executives had played in Roman Reigns' poisoning, providing intelligence and resources that enabled Solo Sikoa's attempted murder of his own cousin. Solo didn't act alone, Triple H stated with absolute certainty. His access to Roman's supplements, his knowledge of Roman's schedule, his confidence that he wouldn't face consequences, all of it was provided by the same executives who later hired Reed and Breakker to finish what Solo had started. This revelation connected Roman's poisoning to the larger assassination conspiracy, suggesting that Solo's actions weren't the result of personal jealousy but part of a coordinated corporate strategy to eliminate independent-minded wrestlers. Roman's hospitalization wasn't the result of Solo's individual betrayal, Triple H explained. It was the first phase of a systematic elimination campaign designed to remove every Bloodline member and replace them with completely compliant corporate assets. But perhaps the most shocking aspect of Triple H's investigation was his discovery that Reed and Breakker had been planning to frame innocent wrestlers for their crimes, using their elimination campaign to destroy the careers of anyone who might oppose corporate control. They were going to plant evidence linking other wrestlers to the Bloodline attacks, Triple H revealed with disgust. Wrestlers who had nothing to do with any of this would have been arrested, prosecuted, and destroyed to provide cover for the real criminals. The frame-up strategy demonstrated a level of calculated evil that went far beyond simple murder conspiracy, suggesting that Reed and Breakker viewed their fellow performers as expendable resources that could be sacrificed to protect their own interests. CM Punk was their primary patsy, Triple H continued, causing audible gasps throughout the room. They had already planted evidence in his personal belongings, created false communication records, and prepared witness testimony that would make him the primary suspect in any Bloodline-related crimes. The revelation that CM Punk had been targeted for frame-up added another layer of corporate conspiracy to an already devastating scandal, suggesting that WWE executives were willing to destroy innocent performers to cover up their criminal activities. But Triple H had saved his most damaging evidence for last: video recordings of Reed and Breakker actually practicing their murder techniques on realistic training dummies designed to simulate their intended victims. They had a private facility where they rehearsed assassination scenarios, Triple H revealed, his voice heavy with revulsion. Detailed practice sessions where they perfected methods for killing Roman, Jacob, Jimmy, and G while making the deaths appear accidental or storyline related. The existence of assassination training facilities revealed a level of premeditation that transformed Reed and Breakker from opportunistic criminals to professional killers who had invested serious time and resources in perfecting their murder techniques. The training videos show them discussing the most efficient ways to kill children, Triple H continued, his words causing several people to leave the room in horror. They had specific plans for eliminating Roman's kids, detailed methods for making those deaths appear accidental, and backup strategies if their initial attempts were unsuccessful. The targeting of innocent children represented the absolute moral bottom of Reed and Breakker's conspiracy, demonstrating a level of evil that transcended any possible justification or explanation. But Triple H's investigation had also uncovered evidence that other WWE performers had been recruited into the assassination conspiracy, creating a network of corporate-sponsored killers within the company's roster. This conspiracy involved at least 12 active wrestlers, Triple H announced, causing panic among roster members who suddenly wondered if their colleagues were planning to murder them. Reed and Reakker weren't just two rogue individuals, they were the leaders of a systematic elimination network funded by corporate executives. The revelation that multiple wrestlers had been recruited into assassination plots meant that WWE's locker room had been infiltrated by criminals who viewed their colleagues as potential targets rather than professional partners. Some of the wrestlers you work with every day, wrestlers you trust with your lives in that ring, were planning to kill you and your families for money and career advancement, Triple H stated with cold finality. This company had become a criminal enterprise disguised as sports entertainment. But Triple H's most shocking revelation concerned the timeline of the assassination conspiracy, which had been planned to culminate during Wrestlemania weekend when maximum media attention would be focused on WWE and maximum chaos would result from the Bloodline's elimination. They were planning a mass casualty event during the biggest weekend in wrestling, Triple H explained with obvious horror. Multiple simultaneous assassinations designed to eliminate the Bloodline family and frame innocent wrestlers while creating enough chaos to justify a complete corporate restructuring of WWE's power structure. The WrestleMania timing revealed the scope of the conspiracy's ambitions, suggesting that Reed and Reakker weren't just planning isolated murders but a systematic coup designed to transform WWE's entire corporate culture through violence and fear. The ultimate goal was complete corporate control, Triple H continued. Elimination of any wrestler who demonstrated independence, replacement of all creative personnel with corporate loyalists, and transformation of WWE into a completely compliant organization where performers followed orders without question or discussion. But Triple H's investigation had prevented this corporate coup by exposing the conspiracy before it could reach its planned culmination, saving not just the Bloodline family but the entire wrestling industry from systematic criminal control. This ends today, Triple H declared with absolute authority. Effective immediately, Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker are terminated from WWE with cause. Their contracts are voided, their merchandise is being destroyed, and their names are being removed from all company records. The immediate termination of Reed and Breakker represented just the beginning of Triple H's response to the assassination conspiracy, as he prepared to announce additional consequences that would reshape WWE's corporate structure. Nick Khan is also terminated, effective immediately, Triple H continued, causing audible shock throughout the room. Any executive who funded, supported, or enabled this conspiracy is being removed from the company and referred to federal prosecutors for criminal investigation. But Triple H's purge extended beyond just the primary conspirators to include anyone who had knowledge of the assassination plots and failed to report them to appropriate authorities. Several wrestlers in this room knew about these plans and chose to remain silent, Triple H announced, his words causing visible panic among roster members. Those individuals have exactly 24 hours to come forward and cooperate with federal investigators. Anyone who fails to do so will be considered an accessory to conspiracy and will face termination and criminal prosecution. The ultimatum that Triple H delivered created immediate pressure on anyone with knowledge of the conspiracy to choose between loyalty to their criminal colleagues and their own legal survival. This company will no longer tolerate, enable, or profit from criminal activity, Triple H declared with finality. We are a sports entertainment company, not a murder-for-hire organization, and anyone who confuses those roles will be eliminated from our organization permanently. But perhaps the most significant aspect of Triple H's response was his announcement of systemic changes designed to prevent similar conspiracies from developing within WWE's corporate structure. We are implementing immediate reforms to our corporate governance, performer safety protocols, and executive accountability measures, Triple H explained. No executive will ever again have the authority to fund assassination attempts, no performer will ever again be rewarded for criminal activity, and no conspiracy will ever again be tolerated within our organization. The systemic reforms that Triple H announced represented a fundamental transformation of WWE's corporate culture, designed to prioritize performer safety and ethical behavior over profit maximization and corporate control. Every performer in this company will receive personal security assessments, threat evaluation protocols, and direct access to federal law enforcement if they feel threatened by colleagues or executives, Triple H continued. Your safety is more important than any storyline, any corporate directive, or any executive's career advancement. But Triple H also announced consequences for the corporate executives who had enabled and funded the assassination conspiracy, demonstrating that accountability would extend to the highest levels of WWE's power structure. The board members who funded this conspiracy are being removed immediately, Triple H declared. Their corporate assets are being frozen pending federal investigation, their legal immunity clauses are being voided, and they will face the full consequences of their criminal actions. The systematic purge of corrupt executives represented Triple H's determination to completely eliminate the corporate culture that had enabled assassination conspiracies to develop within WWE's organizational structure. This company's culture of corporate immunity and executive privilege ends today, Triple H announced with absolute authority. Everyone in this organization, regardless of their position or financial resources, will be held accountable for their actions and face consequences for criminal behavior. But perhaps Triple H's most powerful statement concerned the fundamental values that would guide WWE's future operations and the kind of organization he was determined to build. "We are entertainers, not criminals," Triple H declared with passion. "We tell stories about heroes and villains, but we don't become villains ourselves. We create fictional conflicts for audience enjoyment, but we don't resolve real conflicts through violence and murder." The moral clarity of Triple H's statement resonated throughout the room and established the ethical foundation upon which WWE's future operations would be built. Reed and Breakker forgot the difference between playing bad guys on television and becoming bad guys in real life, Triple H continued. "They transformed from entertainers into criminals, and criminals have no place in our organization." But Triple H's most emotional moment came when he addressed the Bloodline family directly, acknowledging the trauma they had endured and the courage they had shown in exposing the conspiracy against them. "Roman, Jacob, Jimmy, you and your families have survived a systematic assassination attempt funded by our own executives and carried out by our own performers," Triple H said with obvious emotion. "The courage you've shown in fighting back, the loyalty you've demonstrated to each other, and the integrity you've maintained throughout this ordeal represent the best of what professional wrestling should be." The acknowledgement of the Bloodline's courage and integrity served as both apology for the company's failures and recognition of the moral leadership they had provided during the darkest period in WWE's corporate history. "Your willingness to risk everything to expose this conspiracy saved not just your own lives, but the lives of every wrestler who was targeted for elimination," Triple H continued. "You are heroes in the truest sense of the word, and this company is honored to have you as part of our family." But Triple H also used the moment to deliver a warning to anyone else who might consider following Reed and Breakker's path of criminal conspiracy and corporate corruption. "Let this be absolutely clear to everyone in this room and everyone watching this industry," Triple H declared with steel in his voice. "We don't do that here. We don't fund assassinations, we don't reward criminals, and we don't tolerate conspiracies against our own performers." The four words that would define Triple H's leadership, "We don't do that here," became an immediate rallying cry for wrestling fans and performers who demanded ethical behavior from sports entertainment companies. Anyone who thinks they can use violence, intimidation, or criminal conspiracy to advance their career will find themselves unemployed, prosecuted, and permanently banned from our industry, Triple H warned. "We will not compromise our values, our performers' safety, or our corporate integrity for any reason." But perhaps the most significant outcome of Triple H's corporate purge was the message it sent to the entire wrestling industry about the consequences of criminal behavior and the importance of ethical leadership. "Other companies are watching what we do today," Triple H observed. "Performers throughout the industry are seeing whether we have the courage to hold criminals accountable regardless of their corporate connections or financial value." The broader implications of Triple H's actions extended far beyond WWE to influence the entire wrestling industry's approach to performer safety, corporate accountability, and ethical behavior. "We are setting a standard that other companies will be forced to match," Triple H continued. "No promotion will be able to tolerate criminal behavior if we demonstrate the courage to eliminate it completely from our organization." As the meeting concluded and the shocking terminations became public knowledge, the wrestling world struggled to process the magnitude of what had been revealed and the courage that Triple H had shown in confronting criminal conspiracy at the highest levels of his own company. "Triple H just saved professional wrestling," one industry insider observed. "By exposing this conspiracy and eliminating everyone involved, he prevented the transformation of sports entertainment into organized crime." But perhaps the most important outcome was the restoration of trust between WWE's management and performers, demonstrating that the company was willing to sacrifice profitable assets to protect its talent and maintain ethical standards. "Performers can finally trust their employer again," another wrestler noted anonymously. Triple H proved that he values our lives more than corporate profits, our safety more than executive advancement, and our families more than any business consideration. The four words that changed everything, "We don't do that here," became more than just a statement about WWE's values. They became a declaration of war against criminal conspiracy, corporate corruption, and the kind of evil that had nearly destroyed an entire wrestling family. Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker thought their corporate connections made them untouchable. They discovered that some principles are more important than profit, some lines should never be crossed, and some people have the courage to choose what's right over what's profitable. Triple H's decision to destroy their careers and expose their conspiracy didn't just eliminate two criminals, it saved an entire industry from corruption and established a new standard for ethical leadership that will protect wrestlers and their families for generations to come. The era of criminal conspiracy disguised as sports entertainment was over, and it ended with four simple words that will echo through wrestling history forever: "We don't do that here."